everybody. Welcome to our secret AI product development masterclass. I've brought in a good friend and expert in the field, Mr. Steve Simonson. He doesn't ever call himself an expert in anything. He knows nothing about nothing, but he does know a lot about a lot. And he's been working with AI not since it became fashionable to do so in the last couple of weeks, which is one of the reasons I asked him to be here, because he has been dabbling and building and developing and working in the space for a while. And I've seen a talk of his where he took it to another level, and it forced me to go and just dive headfirst into it. And it was a great jumping off point for me. And so I wanted to bring him here today to share what I had seen him share and the latest, and talk about AI. But the reason that this is such an important class is because of the way it's going to change everything we do. We're not just talking about product development. We're talking about how long your product will stay viable on Amazon if it's currently a bestseller. We're talking about how quickly you can iterate from idea to getting something done and actually made that you know will convert better than your competition without spending the money up front. So it's 100 times cheaper, 100 times faster, and things are just going to start moving very fast. And if you're not taking advantage of this opportunity to get a foothold in a marketplace, to improve your products, to launch a lot of new, innovative, great designs that are tested without you having to spend all of that upfront money that you had to in the past, you're going to be left behind, honestly. So this class is super, super important. We take it very seriously. I just got back from China. I was there for 3 weeks. I went to showrooms and I went to over a dozen factories. A lot of the conversations, and this is Steve, another thing about Steve, and he'll tell you, he may tell you, is he has developed and sold a lot of products. Are you over $1 billion in sales?
Yeah, we're well over $1 billion. If I did the math, we're probably right around $2 billion in total turnover, low these many years.
Yeah, so
it doesn't mean I have that in my pocket, just to be clear. We had some costs too. Our COGS were high.
If in case anyone's watching that's trying to look for the money, it's not in his pocket. The amount of products that he has validated, sourced. I know you and Kevin have your project that you use Data Dive for, where you will find a product for someone and give them that idea with a royalty on the back end, but you do all the legwork, design, the sourcing, the logistics, the validation, everything is done. That's an incredible program. So maybe we can talk about that later too, though. But your experience with product development is going to be super helpful here today as well, because I want to ask you around some of the costs with customizing products, because it's one thing that we're going to talk in the beginning of this conversation and presentation around how do you educate your AI, maybe your agent or Bard or whoever, to give you the best prompts or a starting point. What does that formula look like? And then once you start to get something great and you test it with like PickFu or whatever, the hard part starts, which is now you have to actually find a factory that's willing to make that design and make it look as good as the AI made it look, right? Because it's gotta kind of match it. Otherwise you're not testing apples to apples there. So your customization background, I think, is going to be super, super important for us to discuss later around some of the costs, timelines associated with molds, tooling, and or soft goods and customization.
Yeah, happy to do it. It's supply chain, sourcing, production, it's all something that I have lived for 2 decades plus these days.
Yeah, there's not a better person on the planet to have on this call. So thank you so much for your time, Steve. It's extremely valuable. Look at us. So we've got us. And so we're doing a little bit of an introduction now. You're going to go through your essential framework and your talk that you've formulated for us today, which is going to be insanely valuable. I'll actually get through, and we're going to do a case study today, which is really fun. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to prompt the Midjourney. we're gonna maybe we'll work from the chat GPT through, or we'll start with like a formula that I've put together. And then what I can do is I can throw it into PickFu or something like that, and maybe by the end of the call we can see if we're winning. And so it'd be fun to kind of brainstorm around an idea to get the AI, and we'll have a little bit of fun with that later as well. Maybe while we're talking about customization costs and everything, we'll have the PickFu running in the background. So
exciting.
yeah. So this is super interactive as usual. These are all Inner Circle members. They are very, very well behaved. They won't just be butting in unless we allow them. So usually what we do is have them chat, raise their hand. We'll keep checking for those things throughout, and we can pause as frequently as you'd like to answer questions. And then at the end, there's a QR code for you guys to scan. That would be helpful. As always, we want to make sure that we're delivering high value. And you guys know who I am. You don't need this. All right. So should I do the new feature walkthrough? Let me let you take over first, and then I'm going to tease this a little bit. I'll let you guys know, but it is an AI integration that I haven't seen anyone else doing yet.
Okay, I'm gonna do a rapid fire run through this. I'm fine to be interrupted any old time, but I'm going to just kind of zip through these things. But I want to do something I call level set, and this way we kind of all have the same basis of information. And so some of you may know some or all of this stuff, but I will get to things I will guarantee you probably don't know, or at least will find interesting to reinforce what you may have heard briefly. So AI, it's here. I'm old. I've been around. I've done lots of things. Who cares? I don't really think that the background means anything, but I will tell you that at the end of this, you can decide if I have any credibility or not. Let's address the elephant in the room. AI scares people. AI is creating change. AI has many people in kind of terror mode, or at least nervous mode. And I want to just make sure that we understand that this is how many people on our team feel. Even if we ourselves are like, no, I'm excited by this, I see the potential. Each person on your team, as you tell them, I want you to use AI, they translate in their mind to, I want you to replace yourself with AI so I don't have to pay you anymore. But that's not what we're here to do, everybody. I do think, like IBM says here in the middle article, that instead of them actually cutting jobs, they're just going to reduce the roles they would hire in the future and automate those roles, thereby making the human roles more valuable. But we can't ignore some of that kind of noise, because our people all feel this. And so my argument is this is about augmentation. It's about extending bright and brilliant execution. It's not going to take somebody who is let's say a less than stellar performer and turn them into a stellar performer. It might turn them into a adequate performer, fine. But I want to let you know, just like anything else, if you put in crappy prompts, you get crappy results, right? And when I started programming computers back in the I guess early 80s, we called it GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. The same applies to AI today. And I want to let you know that AI is, as of right now, it's not intelligent. It's just a giant autocomplete. So if you think of a bell curve, I just drew that out without explaining, but a bell curve just means there's fringe elements and then there's the bulk of the data in the middle. And that's what it is. It's a giant autocomplete. And the more you enter, just like autocomplete on Amazon or Google, it says, okay, I think this is where you're headed. And at the point that you say, no, that's not where I was headed, it goes, oh, okay, well, I'll go a different direction. So I want you guys to remember that at this point, a large language model, which is what GPT-4 is, and so is BARD for that matter, these are giant autocompletes. So my fundamental point to everyone here is, if people understand AI, they embrace AI, they will be in wonderful, happy land. The people, or at least the companies who don't, face extinction. That's fundamentally what I believe. And I'll say one further thing, everybody. This is not like the invention of the PC, right? Or the advent even of the internet, both of which transformed humanity. This is not even, the Industrial Revolution, going from steam to electricity. This is like the wheel or fire, right? This is transformational in every possible way. Humanity will never be the same. And the tipping point really was about 6 months ago when GPT-4 released. You guys may or may not have ever heard of Chegg, but as an example of a company who, maybe wasn't on the forefront of embracing
books.
AI.
Yeah.
You've heard of them, Brandon, yeah?
Yeah.
So they made a very subtle statement in their public quarterly meeting, something like, it's possible ChatGPT and AI could impact our subscription revenue. And their stock dropped 40%, which wiped $1 billion of market cap off of their stock. Now, if they had said something like, we're embracing AI wholly, and we're going to leverage the crap out of this stuff for the benefit of our customers, A, B, C, D, they may have had a different outcome. By the way, Pearson, exactly in the same category as Chegg, didn't say anything, but Chegg talked enough, and their stock fell 15%, was another $1 billion of market cap. My point, everybody, is if you think that we can just ignore AI, the facts would argue in the contrary. Now, again, we're talking about public companies, but just assume if your competition is going to use it to maintain parity, you better use it. If not, get really good at it and turn it into an advantage. Yeah, that would be a bad day, Brandon. You go, yeah, AI could have an impact on our financials, and then $1 billion disappears off your market cap.
So this reminds me a lot of the effect, and maybe it'll become known as the Chegg effect. Do you remember the Apple competitor back in the day? It's a very famous case study. I can't remember the name because it's actually named after him now. Is it Paulson or something? Where they said we have the new version coming out, and so sales immediately stopped. Demand dropped instantly, and he ended up out of bankrupt soon after that because he released the idea of a newer model coming out too early, so no one wanted the old model anymore.
Yeah, these are examples of if we're not on the, this is more than a trend, right? A fidget spinner is a trend. This is a movement. This is a humanity pivot, if you will. And so
exactly.
I'm excited by it. And by the way, AI has very generous self-portraits over there of itself. Although this is coming from Midjourney. If you put in just AI self-portrait again, you'll just come up with different photos because of the way they seed the images. Here's another one that it provided for you. So this is like 3 steps away from Skynet. I mean, we are not far if it's coming up with that, right? So some weird stuff out there too. My point is that AI is here. We should embrace it. I highly recommend all of you become experts at it. And, we've used machine learning for close to a decade in our systems in our business, trying to figure out how to look at inventory or forecasting or, different trend analysis, sentiment analysis, things like that. But the truth is AI is much better than machine learning. Machine learning is like a bicycle with training wheels, and AI in its present form, just its present form, is like one of those rocket bikes that go along the salt flats of Salt Lake at 200 miles an hour. It's vastly different. And my point to you guys is, where will we be in a year, 2 years, 5 years? I say it's 1,000 times better than it is today, which means if we get good today, we'll be prepared for tomorrow. Lots of language and vocabulary you might want to get familiar with. I don't think it's necessary to dive into that, but you're going to start hearing things like llama and LangChain and vector databases and so many other things. So just get familiar with it and do it in your spare time. OpenAI kind of kicked off this whole awareness, and I'll be honest, in November I started hearing a bunch of clamoring, and around Thanksgiving I'm like, well, I don't know if this is just a load of garbage and we got a Beanie Baby situation on our hands, or if this is something real. And after about 2 weeks, I'm like, this is unbelievable. We are all in my software companies. We are AI first. And we started immediately, getting OpenAI plugged into our system. So we are, everything we do from a systems perspective, regardless of department, we want to think, how can AI help the people first? and they are the fastest growing consumer app of all time. You see those numbers, 5 days to 1 million users, 2 months to 100 million users, and the growth continues. I'm going to give you just a little vocabulary. ChatGPT is the one you keep hearing about. These are actually acronyms that mean things that I don't think are that important to us at this moment. It can be wrong. That's why I ask it about AI hallucinations. It will literally just lie to you, and it will have no remorse. And then when you go, no, you're wrong, it'll go, oh, sorry, what are you going to do? And so you have to understand that perfection is not what's been achieved. It's just a very high velocity of information that is largely correct, particularly if you prompt it well. So watch out for AI hallucinations. DALL-E is the OpenAI text-to-image software. It's pretty good. There are some, as I say here, minor beneficial differences to Midjourney, which include allowing you to do some editing. So if you wanted to take a photo that maybe had your product in it and change the background, or change the setting in some way, you could do that by just spotting out part of that image and then having the AI regenerate whatever portion was highlighted. So DALL-E still has some room to grow, but it's available via API, which Midjourney is not. Whisper is one that we're using now to do basically audio to text transcriptions, including wild accents, different languages, all come into English. If you generate any kind of content for your customers, maybe their product videos, installation videos, whatever, Whisper can bring in that audio. Now you've got a transcription. You can write blogs off of that file. You can write summaries, ebooks, explain it like a 5-year-old. You can translate it to French, German, Spanish, Mandarin, Urdu, whatever you want. Massive potential. Taking content of all types and creating what I call industrial scale marketing outputs. Midjourney, I'm going to dive into some of the tips and tricks here. I love it. It's great. It's fun. You get weird stuff for sure, but it has the potential for very high quality stuff. And you can see here, teapots in different styles. You can get not just different characters, but different styles. You can get lots of different outputs. And again, from an ideation perspective, it is phenomenal to use Midjourney for product development, in my opinion. Now, let's be clear. Even if the images from AI are not copyrightable, Star Wars will not let you use their stuff to make product. That's still well protected.
It's really funny because I used an example of a Star Wars product as well, a piece of luggage. As a test, I did Star Wars and I did Mickey. And I can show you guys that test later, but I basically created a 3D piece of luggage and I tested it against the 3 best sellers of Mickey Mouse luggage on Amazon. Absolutely crushed them. Wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Like just the raw rendering of what that design was that the AI helped me come up with was superior to the best sellers that have gone through multiple iterations with designers through a major manufacturer and company and approval process at Disney.
I quite agree. I have countless examples. I'm going to share a few concepts with you guys, but I think for ideation and discovery, this has massive potential. And if you're not using it and your competition is, you got a problem. You're behind. So there are other things that are more advanced. You may hear of called AutoGPT, another one called Baby AGI. I would say just stay aware of these. These are allowing autonomous agents to conduct and do tasks and manage, other bots and so forth. You will hear, whether it's 6 months or 12 months or 18 months, that will be the next iteration of adoption. So for us, we're all about how do we take these agents and automate them versus individual queries, even through an API. And we're well on our way. I'd say 75% there to be able to have task agents that are autonomous, complete SOPs. It's phenomenal. Really is something. So that's coming, everybody. Again, this is my little bit of prediction, a little bit of level setting. Here's an industrial case for you. Commercial case, I should say. So we have something called SOP box. And I won't go into all the feature set. It's good and it's nice and we like it. But all you do is you put in, how to get a brand analytics report from Amazon Seller Central, and then you click the magic button, and then this comes out, right? Over there is a description, a background. What are the requirements to make this work? And then here's each one of the steps, step, step, step. And this is a zoom in of some of those steps. Now, is it going to be perfect every time? No. How could it be, right? It's a computer. But if it's widely documented, public-facing documentation, and I'm talking about QuickBooks, Helium 10, Seller Central, Shopify, ShipStation, like the list goes on and on and on. If you simply say, how to do this process, SOPs literally can be done automatically for you. And so you still want to have the edit function, right? You still need to be able to validate. But once it's in a system and it's structured and you have access then to publish it to your whole team, you've slain the blank page. Like what I hate the most is this blank page. Everybody hates the blank page, no matter if you're writing HR policy or job description or SOP, like the blank page is the worst page. And so literally, a magic button and here or there, it takes about 60 seconds because ChatGPT 4 is slow, but it is magical. And if you guys are interested to learn more about that, you can go to sopbox.vip, jump on the waiting list there. Brandon has a special deal. He's like, hey, listen, everybody in the inner circle gets special stuff, so pony up. And so at the point you guys are invited to join SOP Box, the inner circle exclusive, because checklists are a big part of what we do. Step 1 is your coupon. And that, I think, gets you a free month plus the next 3 months at 50% off of already a ridiculously low price, frankly.
Awesome.
But
that's much appreciated.
Always, Brandon gets what he wants for inner circle, and so we share that just as an aside. So let's charge on. So I'm going to give you guys kind of a slightly different, and I would say more in-depth version of how you get to superhuman prompts. This is a framework or a blueprint of how you do stuff. This applies not just to Midjourney. This applies to any concept you can think of using ChatGPT. So I'm going to try to close that loop later, but this is not just about Midjourney. This is a blueprint for how you do stuff in using ChatGPT to create smart conversations. So you guys have seen, like, this person does not exist. You got a gorgeous, lit, perfect image, and this person is just AI, right? Another great AI image. Look at the reflection in the window. Like, that is phenomenal. This is not a real person, not a real scene. It's just an AI image. Really great stuff. Here you got kind of a Joker inspired, the hair's twisted there, and really just a gorgeous image, right? Now, these are, amazing. The way you get to that is you get better and better prompts. So even a crappy prompt, in fairness to Midjourney, does really great stuff. So you've got this prompt here, with multiple misspellings, and it still puts out a pretty neat image. It needs a little work because grandma's got 7 fingers there, but she's a hell of a racquetball player, everybody. You cannot beat her in racquetball. So I want to let you know that even bad prompts can produce nice things, but the better the prompt, the better the result. And as Happy Gilmore would say, it's all in the prompt. It's all in the prompt. So, by the way, this close-up B image also Midjourney. So this technique I'm going to show you takes this simple input, this simple prompt, and turns it into this, right? So Star Wars living room. Now, if you follow my ChatGPT training idea here, it will fill in all of these blanks for you. It will fill in the cameras and the shutter speed and all of the descriptive language. It's pretty awesome. And by the way, you notice a little Star Wars theme happening, Brandon?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a nerd. That's fine. So it's all the details of this aren't so important, except to know that the more detail you give it, the more parts of the prompt that it can, take inspiration from, the better off you'll be. And then, of course, you get quite a beautiful image that would not take much to convince you that this is in Star Wars, right? There's a lot to it that very Star Wars-y. So here's the checklist. Here's how you do it. There's just 5 steps. start a GPT-4 conversation. 3.5 will do it. It just won't do it as well. So I highly recommend using 4. Then you add some training and context. You throw a couple example prompts in there, and then you ask in simple English, like Star Wars Living Room. And then GPT-4 will give you the Superhuman prompt, which you just paste into Discord. On the right side, you can see an example checklist there, how it would look in SOPs. So we've opened GPT-4, step 1 done, right? We're on the way. Then in our case, we've just made a document. There's 6 little pieces of text that you need to paste in with misspellings, with bad grammar. And this you can just go to Midjourney and copy their documentation and paste it in. That's essentially what we've done. And once you paste that in, then you paste in a couple examples. Oh, my watch is talking to me. So you're adding some training by literally just copying and pasting. You copy from Midjourney into GPT-4, and then you do the same thing with some example prompts that show some training. Like, hey, here's prompt 1, prompt 2, prompt 3, all in generic text. You guys see that each of those prompts are just buried in. GPT-4 doesn't care about formatting. It just reads it, right? And then sure enough, at the top, then we say, all right, now from here on, you're a professional photographer, and I want you to make this come to life, right? And look at that. It's showing you the camera, which, by the way, is time specific to the, whatever it is, 30s or 40s, right? And so it's doing all that without us having to think about it, which is phenomenal. And then, now we're done with the checklist, and this is what it produced. Now, on the left is the grid, the initial produced. On the right is just a zoom of the lower part of the quadrant, not even upscaled. Like, that's how beautiful and high quality is without even upscaling it. So, by the way, 1930s influencer is a movie star in the old days. That's how that goes. So all of that is, now we can put in anything we want. If we want to just say, a baby panda, it will do the beautiful Superhuman prompt and it spits it out. If you want to say, other things like, a product, or really anything, just remember that this particular training is oriented towards, kind of the big, elaborate cinematic shots, not necessarily for cinema, but big, beautiful shots. So you could train another one to be, just give me product sketches, or just give me engineering drawings, or the like, and I'll get into some of those. So if you guys take a screenshot of that real quick, and I'm sure you guys will get these slides from the gang here, you'll be able to go find the training PDF if you need it. Otherwise, you can just go to Midjourney and copy and paste the stuff yourself. It's not that hard, but this would save you a couple hours of work. So I think for stock photos, being able to insert your product in images, that's happening already. You still want to be careful. First of all, you can't use Albert Einstein. I want to be clear about that. The Einstein estate will let you know that they are not cool with that. But even though those are beautiful photos in the grid on the left, beautiful photos, right? The way that's lit, they still have geometry problems, particularly with hands and sometimes with eyes. So it's getting better with each version, but be aware of that and don't let that be an oversight. Here are some things I want you guys to start thinking about, including in your prompts. And Brandon probably has a bunch of these too, so we can mash these up and use some or all, or pick your favorites. But when you say things like product mock-ups or packaging, you want it to be a realistic, or other terms that I haven't listed, like raw or pencil sketch, or so on and so forth. The thing is extraordinarily intelligent. So I want you guys to start to think about some of those terms. And then the better you are at being instructive, right? What's the subject of this thing? Is this a painting? Is this a doodle? What are we making in terms of the medium? Where should I put this thing, right? Environmentally, and on and on and on. I'm not going to go through all these things. But every data point means the AI has more options. If you're unaware, there's an entire style guide inside of Midjourney, right? All of these things like block print or cross stitch, like, it's going to give you a bunch of things, like a pencil sketch. That's a great thing to have of a product. And by the way, you can upload a photo of your product and go, give me a pencil sketch of this, and it'll do it, right? And it's really quite lovely. Here's some additional style guide options. I'm not going to go through all these, but the complexity that this thing is able to do, timelines, right? If you want a cat from the 1700s or 1800s, apparently they wore hats in the 18 and 1900s. You can add emotion to these cats or really any image. And then you can also play with colors, styles. There's just unlimited, right? Unlimited. You can also use artists as inspiration, right? And say, I want this cat like Van Gogh would make it, or Matisse, or, Pablo Picasso, or whoever your favorites are, if that's the direction you're headed. The same thing applies to ChatGPT, by the way, with writing styles. Write this like, Dan Kennedy or Shakespeare, or, pick your favorites. And finally, environmental stuff. One feature, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, called Blend. So I'll just let it play here. So there's a function called Blend where you can upload 2 photos and the AI will blend those photos together for you in unique and interesting ways. And so once it animates and completes, you can see it took those 2 things and it made a blended image for you. Now, again, this may not be your primary image on Amazon, but I think there's a lot of fun ways you could use these types of functions to at least have cool social media content that is the hook, right? A lot of things that we want are hooks in our marketing. And there are other things like Bard and Dolly that will allow you to just edit right in the image. So Bard last week just announced a whole bunch of new things that will give you lots and lots of opportunity to edit images. So including like, here's my image of my product, and I want to just change to a bunch of lifestyles. Images, there's going to be a lot of that capability built right into the software. Many of those things free, by the way. So product design ideas. I want to just share just a few concepts that we would pursue. So if you're making a coloring book, right, you can do that. You just want to be very thoughtful about how you do it, right? You avoid shading, or you want to give it very descriptive themes and so on. But I will tell you, this one is just from this very day. Apologies to Hobo Stink 88, by the way. If you are doing this without being in stealth mode, then everybody can see what you're doing. Now, no AI image is copyrightable. I want to be clear about that. So even if you take this and make a kid's coloring book, you can copyright the kid's coloring book, but you can't copyright the individual image. And so the best way to protect yourself is to be in stealth mode. If you're unfamiliar with that Midjourney, it's a simple setting. But like, I watched somebody today creating a kid's coloring book. Now, I don't know if it's for a commercial use or for a private use. Either way, I could see what was happening. It gives you extraordinary opportunities to create mock-ups, right? And no matter your product, mock-ups are a really great thing. And again, you can upload photos and have it redo things. It's not perfect. Let me be clear. I want to reiterate that. But it's getting better and better and better. If you're going to sell stickers, you can have it ideate tons of different things about stickers, right? And this is just like ideation. Hey, I want things about construction or things about, playtime or the park or whatever. You want some vintage posters? It'll have a ton of ideas. You can make vintage posters for, any country, any state, any region, any topic. And all you have to do is say vintage poster style, and Bob's your uncle, you're done. Which artistically is a really great advantage. You would still have to do edits on this, right? You'd still want to get in there and fix the text and worry about a few details probably. But it's just a great way to pass through discovery and into kind of ideation very quickly. Packaging, right? Now, by the way, packaging, or I'll say it differently. AI right now will not do text for you. Midjourney, at least, and Dolly will not do text for you for any number of reasons, but not the least of which is kind of copyright trademark concerns. So even if you tell it, put Star Wars on this soap, it won't do that. It'll kind of randomize it a bit. So, but if you say, give me packaging for soap aimed at, Gen Z women, there you go. There's some package ideas. All of these things are great ways to leverage AI and really accelerate the potential. Now, it's also dumb. I know I've said this more than once, but give me a coat of arms for the family name Bastos, it gave you bats, bass, and ass. So that's maybe not straight wins, although you could edit the text on those. I want to be clear that it is not text friendly. And then again, try to really think of outside the box, right? You can have the evil cupcake style and have fun with that. You can make, this one we said, a monster truck product design for toddler boys ages 1 to 3 with a cartoon face, right? So literally you could have, now it would take a little bit of money to make the molds and stuff for that, but that's going to be a new product in a category that already exists that I bet you, like Brandon gave an example earlier, I bet you we could kick the crap out of the current competition there, because this is just
that's exactly
new and
what we're
fresh
going to try to do today. Is we're going to develop a product, we're going to test it.
Love it. Yeah. If you say, hey, I just want a sketch of a garlic press, right? There's lots of ways to do this to keep the ideation flowing, whether it's for product design or marketing subsequently or social or what have you. Lots and lots of ways to do this. You can do engineering drawings. You can do pattern sketches. There's all kinds of things. Now, I want to just say that while these may, like the English on here and the letters will never be, well, not never. As of now, they're not perfect. But directionally, it's a beautiful image, and it gives you a great opportunity to, inspire people within your organization or marketing purposes, again, social and the like. Okay, Brandon, have I got a few more minutes? I'm going to take you through another thing or two if you got time.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go.
Okay. So that's a bunch of mid-journey, like get serious about mid-journey because images matter. This is an idea of how you can use ChatGPT to create, again, what I like to think of as industrial scale content. So one of the ideas that you might ask in email is, who are the top 10 direct response marketeers of all time? And it gives you a list, right? And it gives you a little summary. And you go, cool, I'm going to lock that away for a minute. And then you say, hey, what are some well-known frameworks for email marketing? And it pulls out, the ADA and the BAB and the PASS and so forth, very common and well-known frameworks. If you're not familiar with these, great news, GPT is familiar. So if you just say, write me an email in the BAB framework on this topic with this intended desire to this audience, Bob's your uncle, you're pretty much on your way. And that's kind of what we're going to do here. So then I say, well, what's the best consumer target audience for selling garden hoses? I decided that was my business, garden hoses. And it came out with these potential target audiences, right? Homeowners, garden enthusiasts, DIYs, family with children, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, I think it's right on all of this stuff so far. Like the quality of its responses so far are absolute on target as far as I'm concerned. So then you could follow up in the same conversation. Okay, this is what I alluded to earlier with the mid-journey. If you make a conversation, that becomes a trained mini bot for you. When you go back to that mid-journey conversation and you just say, baby panda, it spits out the mid-journey. But if you come back to this email conversation and you say, I need an email, knowing everything you know up here, I need an email that does the following. It will remember in the conversation. So I want to really reiterate to you guys, don't just keep making fresh conversations if you have a long-term objective. Try to mini train that little bot. Really important. So we asked the thing, since it already knows what happened, hey, what's the customer avatar for number 2, which you may recall is garden enthusiasts. And then you would just kind of go through and do that avatar for each of the segments. But here you have a very perfect avatar, really. I might tweak a thing or two here, but it would be mostly for my own ego. Like, this is good enough. And so now you've got an avatar. And then you go, okay, cool. What would be the logical email sequence over 6 months to take a cold lead who's a garden enthusiast and turn them into a rabid fan? And it gives you an 18-step plan over the course of 6 months with logic. Welcome. Educational. Here's a product highlight. Success stories. Expert. Like, every part of this makes perfect sense to me. Brandon, just as a quick glance, it seems logical to you, yeah?
It looks great. Yeah, it's a blueprint. It's a great starting point. It's something that you would normally pay a lot of money to have someone construct for you, to start to give you a framework around.
Yeah. So you're spending either your own time or money for somebody else to kind of do this for you. And now you can have it done just like that. So then you come back and you go, all right, let's put it all together. In the voice of Dan Kennedy from our first query, write a cold email for the brand Hose Guy from the founder, Luke Skywalker, in the BAB framework, right? So we're pulling all that together. Now, we could have said for this particular avatar or that particular segment or what have you, but we just said, we just put it here like this. And sure enough, you see it comes right down. And I highlighted some of the before, before, agitate, and after. And then, of course, the call to action, just so you can see that it nailed this email in a pretty positive way. And by the way, at the very bottom, under the call to action, it says, may the force of unbeatable hose solutions be with you. Now, it picked that up just because the name of the guy is Luke Skywalker, which I find to be phenomenal. That's that autocomplete.
That's a great sense of humor.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, this joke's not so good, but that inference is really good. So all of that really takes the pain away. And this applies, then you can go get your headlines and say, give me emojis. And sure enough, you can see, blast off with Luke Skywalker's unbeatable, hoses. Again, the Star Wars kind of callback, and on and on and on and on. The whole point here is if you follow a flow, framework, however you want to think of a blueprint, every marketing function, HR function, right? Hey, we're going to do the same thing with job descriptions. We're going to do the same thing with, interactions with, potential employees, or in operations, you may have some other function. This is highly replicatable. I encourage you guys to use it. And then I'll just show you a couple prompts here, because this is where you guys want to head. Please create this kind of content that speaks to the values of this target audience. You could use Prism demographic groups if you guys are familiar with those, or just say, moms who drive minivans with, several kids who like to buy whatever it is, garden hoses, right? And then that align with my product or service. We have various conversations. And by the way, you can do this with conversation IDs and tokens in the API, so that you can keep track of a pre-trained bot. That's for the advanced users. But otherwise, just you're using the conversations, and you go back and say, well, I've already told everything about my company. Now I'm asking it to give me some ideas. Hey, what's a viral idea? What's the kind of content I should build? What's a calendar? How should I optimize this or that? And as features come out, like live web views, so that's now out with Bard. It can go look at websites. The plugins for OpenAI, ChatGPT, are out basically now too publicly. And so you're going to be able to have up to 3 plugins, including going and looking at live websites, reading your competition, having it scored, and telling, hey, what are they doing right about SEOs, and what are they doing wrong about SEO? What's the best way to structure PPC? And by the way, you should be very specific, because, it's ideas about Google versus Amazon versus others could be different. And by the way, they could be wrong, but the general information it has are all information on the internet. I shouldn't say all, much information off the internet, which gives
have you played with, I know it only came out in the last week, the updated version of Bard? I
have. So Duet is not yet available on my account. Duet is the feature inside, like, say, Google Docs and Google Spreadsheet and so forth, that integrates it, Google Gmail, that will allow you to do queries inside of those things. So you get an email from Gmail when you have Duet activated. It can give you a potential reply based on your own kind of reply format.
That's awesome. So I just used Microsoft I had to switch to, so when I went to it, it said it's not available. I just went to a generic Gmail, and it opened it up for me.
Shocking.
And and I was able to start asking it questions. What I love about it is that it can read the internet.
Yeah.
And it's up to date, right? Yes. So like ChatGPT is a little delayed. 2021, 2022 information, like it's starting to get, but there's no bigger web crawler than Google. They own the web. So I feel like the content and the answers that I'm getting are more topical and more, and just as a test, you can say, what was the biggest news today? And it just gave you 5 or 6 headlines.
Yeah, I use that precisely in Bard since last week to say, like, what are the top 5 e-commerce stories from yesterday? and it'll summarize it and show me the titles. It can't yet cite it'll name the resource, but it won't give me a link, which is silly. But the ability to go look at a website and then give you an answer right now is really important. And again, in response to that, OpenAI said, okay, our plugins are now open. So that includes web browsing. So you can have
they're going to push each other to go faster, and it's going to just be better for us, the consumer.
Yeah, well, competition is good for us. By the way, one of the things, I'll just show you this last one here. Make a list of the top 100 Twitter accounts in this business niche that review products. You can do the same with Instagram or any other social, and again, this is where timeliness and freshness make a difference.
Yeah.
But we get those lists of Twitter accounts, right? We get the list of things, and then we go try to, make friends with them and figure out if we can work together in some way or another. So there's lots and lots of ways to build prompts.
And then there's going to be there is another AI that will actually do the outreach for you. So you can,
sure.
You can say, go message these people with this message saying, hey, I'm having my bot message you because I'm interested in working with you. Please email me back at this email if you're interested, or whatever, right?
Well, not only that, yeah, I didn't have time today. I'm pretty much done, everybody. The truth is there are a ton of specialized tools where you can take like existing videos and turn them into shorts, or take voice, and change the take text and turn into, fun voices, or clone your own voice and do, podcasts from text into your own voice. Lots and lots of fun tools. I just didn't have time to get into that today, but I can say that it is an unlimited potential of awesome. And I highly recommend that people get into it. Don't worry about how ChatGPT's data set is perceived to have stopped in 2021, because in weeks that will be solved. And again, I have the plugins already activated, so it can do live reads for me right now.
Okay,
and awesome. It should be available to everybody within a week or so.
Steve, incredible amount of information. You touched on product development, you touched on marketing, you touched on so many different use cases. And all of them are relevant as business owners for us, even though we're in the physical business, physical product business, we're in the brands business. So we have to understand who our avatars are, who our customers are. Let's take a couple questions before I jump in. Ahmed, I'll be right back as well. So continue without me. I need a potty break. Give me 1 second.
Okay, good.
I'll let you guys run. Go ahead.
All right. Well, listen, I'm open to questions. Let me see. I see a couple. If you guys don't mind, I'll start at the bottom. Nika says, this is so cool. I got some nice emojis from Claire. Thank you. Recordings. I don't know anything, but Marlene says that's cool. She's got the recordings in 72 hours. Drew mentions, hey, what about ChatGPT being potentially old? If you're looking for today's stock quotes or the most recent updates, say in Midjourney or whatever, and it's not going to have it in its language model, the LLM. But again, those barriers will go away very, very quick. Restaurant review, ChatGPT. Yeah. Those are like my son. I told him to use ChatGPT to write an elevator pitch for his business. And he was in fact, it was his idea. I'm like, you need an elevator pitch for your business. And so he just put in all his stuff and he's like, make me an elevator pitch. And it just came back and back and back. And so let's see, I'm looking for the SOP box discount. Everybody's use the coupon code STEP1. I see everybody's helping each other. Thank you so much. SOP box is in fact using ChatGPT 4 right now. I see Drew asked we are relatively agnostic. We're just going to use the one that's the best and the fastest. Right now it's the slowest, but it is the best. And Bard doesn't have an API anyway, but like ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo is 10 times faster on the query, but we rather take 60 seconds instead of 6 seconds and get a better result. And it looks like that's the gist of the questions. Oh, I see a few more things down here.
We have one hand raised, Steve.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to see that. Carry on.
Ahmed, do you still have a question?
Hello.
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to thank you for the fantastic presentation. And I want to share, it's not actually a question. I want to share a trick I'm using because I'm experimenting also AI for a while. Working between ChatGPT and Midjourney. Midjourney has a prompt or a function that is pretty cool. That you can take a picture that you like or you want to do something like the same picture. Then the prompt is describe, and you put the picture inside, and it will give you 4 suggestions. Then you take those suggestions to ChatGPT, and you work with ChatGPT to make the perfect description for you want, if you understand what I mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got pretty cool.
So
pretty
you
cool,
have Midjourney.
results.
Yeah, so you're having Midjourney analyze the product and describe it. Then you're taking that back into ChatGPT to refine the description and the prompt. Then you're going back to Midjourney. Okay, that's very interesting.
Yes. And if you're not getting the results you want, you just come back to ChatGPT and said like, I want the box in the right, not in the center or something like this, because Midjourney will describe everything: lighting, elements, effects, even the style of the image. So
This is you're absolutely right. It's a good use case. I will let you guys know all of these things are going to converge. So ChatGPT has the ability to upload and do the give me a detailed description of this photo or what have you. It will also, in very short order, have the ability. Bart already now has this ability too, using Adobe Firefly. And you can literally just, if there's like a couch in the middle of the room, you can just drag the couch to the left side or the right side or whatever. It's going to accelerate faster than you guys can imagine. And I won't bore you again with too many details, but the ChatGPT 4 announcement, literally they took a piece of paper, they drew a website on it, and it just took the photo of the website and uploaded it and said, make me a website for this. And there, all the code was there, and the website was spun up, just the front end. It wasn't functional just yet because it's just a picture. But that's where we're headed, where you can just take, us humans can take drawings and make beautiful things.
Yeah, there's a new service called Gamma. Let me see what it is that you need to check out exactly for that. It makes an interactive website that is fully Gamma, GAMMA.app, and it's fully functioning just like Shopify, customizable, draggable, modular. But you just give it a few ideas, short description, and then it will give you some suggestions on a theme based on what it is. And then you say go, and it makes your full website, and it pulls in extra images. It pulls in everything that it needs, and then you can customize from there.
It is phenomenal. There's another one that does $12 a month, like SEO automations that are phenomenal for driving traffic. So many possibilities.
Yeah. So Kyle, I don't think that Midjourney is good with text yet. So you would have to probably customize the text on your product. If it's written on your product, you would have to probably Photoshop. The whole point is that you can get 80-90% of the way there. With very little Photoshop afterwards, you can have a pretty refined image for lifestyle. The way that I'm using, and I know Ahmed brought it up, the way I'm using Midjourney for reference images is just the basic functionality of it. Is I can take any reference image, I can feed it in there. And I'm using this more for lifestyle images. So you can take anyone that's doing any activity, you put them into there, and now you can describe that you want where you want that person, and you can describe the scene around that person. And now you've got a new lifestyle image where the person has been changed, and now the scenery has been changed to whatever you wanted it to be. I think we're going to continue. Let's see here. Time for me to spoil the latest and greatest. Very excited to share this. I feel like no matter how fast we go, we might not go fast enough, and that's the fear, right? So we're going as fast as we can, and hopefully you guys can see my my screen. So when you guys are running Data Dive, and you've got 30 competitors, 40 competitors, 20 competitors, whatever it is, of the best seller, we want you to be able to understand in detail how the current sellers are getting their sales, but also what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, and what features each of those sellers have in their products, right? We're going to allow you, with the use of AI, to scan every review from every competitor that you've chosen. You're going to get a full report that's going to tell you what people loved about the product, what people didn't love about the product, what features each of the products have, and individually you can check box them. So you'll be able to, once you run it, you're going to select these. And we call this the AI product brief. We have a new name coming out. But at the end of this, if you're using this for product development, you're going to have a full report by the end of it that you're going to be able to hand to your factory to customize your product, to make sure that, or your agent or whoever on your team that does your product development, to make sure that it has all the right features and that you're checking every box. So you just run the dive. Right now it's a little slow because it has to dive all of those reviews. It has to go in and actually scrape all the information from all those reviews. So the first thing you're going to get back are all the attributes. So for every single competitor, you're gonna understand which of these features they have. So adjustable, outdoor, ear holes, sun protection, and you'll be able to select the ones that you want to make sure that you include in your product. So we've got adjustable, ear holes, sun protection, and you got it checked here. Now you've got size options, breathable, comfort, funny design, and you'll be able to select, while you're selecting these, you'll from the values of the attributes create the ones that you prefer. So on the size options, you can go small, medium, and large, right? Comfortable wear, you can customize in here. The next step that you're going to be able to do is when you scroll the way over, you're going to be able to see all the competitors. You'll see exactly what they have and don't have to make sure you're not missing any. Because a lot of times you'll find one or two competitors or a few competitors that are doing something unique, innovative, novel that you should probably include. So you want to go through and check it. Now you do the same for the positive attributes, the praises. So from the reviews, add your own positive attributes. So cute, quality, warm, adjustable, comfortable. And you can list additional positive attributes that you find that maybe you found in the reviews, right? Then you can go through the negative reviews, the negative features that you're seeing. Here are the product attributes and how often, what the customers dislike. And you're seeing stiff, no elastic, thin, not as depicted in the photo. All of this is driven out for you by Data Dive using AI. So you can get an idea of all the features that were liked, and you can select the ones that matter to you, that make the most sense, and what the people didn't like. So you can make understand how you can beat them and how you can do a better job developing your product. So at the end of it, you get this AI, this brief, and you've got the value added ideas that the AI now puts it together for you in a written brief. So desired improvements, improve sizing, provide clear and accurate sizing information to help customers choose the right size for their pets and avoid sizing issues. This is actually written for you based on the desired improvement. AI is now describing why that improvement is important for your factory, for your team member, for your product developer, your sourcing agent, whoever you're working with. And then at the end, it says, by incorporating these value-added ideas and improvements, the product will cater to the needs of pet owners while addressing the common issues faced with competitor products. This will result in a more satisfying and enjoyable experience for both pets and owners. What do you guys think?
Brilliant.
Now, yeah, I've got one more. We went a layer deeper. We talked about avatars earlier, Steve. How about this? The following avatars were generated by the AI within Data Dive on the listings and reviews of selected competitors. If you believe anything should be added or removed, feel free to use so. So we're making this an open slate for you, so you can cut and paste these, or edit, do whatever you want. But from the reviews and from the typical shopper that would buy this product, it came up with these 7 avatars. The fashionable pet owner, and it describes it. The outdoor enthusiast, and it describes them. The pet parent seeking comfort. The winter pet owner, the festive pet owner, the pet owner with size concerns, and the value conscious pet owner. Now you know who's buying your product, and then from here, the next feature is with our AI bullets and listing writer. We're going to be able to help you write your listing to these avatars to really, really help you convert on your listing. So here's your final brief. Customer avatars, what the product should have, what the product should not have, desired improvements, and any other insights that may be valuable. And you can download the PDF and deliver it to your team member. Or designers, marketers. You could take it to Midjourney. You can use a lot of these features, because we're going to talk about the features in a minute. And this is where you can generate some prompts, some of these features that you want to include in prompts. So any questions on this Data Dive, on the Data Dive feature that's coming out? This will be live as of next week, guys. All right, I'm seeing some messages here. I'm glad you guys are liking it. I appreciate you typing and seeing the positive. That's why the Cuban coffee, exactly. No, I've been burning it at both ends because we have deadlines for orders. We have 100 products we've been really diving deep and developing and designing and making decisions on. We're going to end up placing about 25 orders. And I've been working with my team in China till 4 a.m. the last 2 nights, and then back up early and working. So it has been a couple late nights. I appreciate that. So on the Data Dive side, that will be coming out. The listing writer is maybe a week delayed. So it's right after that is the AI listing writer, the bullets. What we've done there is we've prompted it. We give you the seed keywords that should be there to maximize rank. And then next to it, if you can imagine, so you got the keywords that should be there, the 2 or 3 keywords that should be in each bullet. The prompt, we allow you, we seed the prompt about the benefit to the buyer, but you can change that if you'd like and rerun it. And then you will get the bullet. It's great, but sometimes it doesn't copy the keyword over an exact order. So we will highlight that for you and let you know that you might need to take that keyword and put it back in the right order to maximize rank. So this is why we've had a little delay, because the AI can be stubborn sometimes. And when you ask it to write a paragraph with certain keywords, it sometimes jumbles them up and doesn't want to listen to you. So now what we've decided to do is give you this table that we've had to develop in the software that will show you whether it listened to you or not, and make it editable and customizable for you. All right, guys, let's move on to the next section of product development. This is fun. We're going to do something together. So I'm going to need some ideas, but I'm going to walk through the process that I use. It's not as sophisticated as Steve, but it can incorporate Steve's methodology with training ChatGPT, bringing over the prompt. I'm going to show you what I've kind of boiled down to be the starting point of where I like to start from ideation. And so we're gonna walk through that now. All right. So when you use Midjourney, you're going to be starting off with an imagine prompt. Imagine is basically indicating to the AI, to Midjourney, that you want them to imagine what you're describing, right? And so then you start with your prompt. So I like to have these elements in there, most of these elements in there to at least start, but you'll see that I started below. So I'm going to start with a description of the physical materials. I want the AI to immediately know, do I want this to be a metal product? Do I want it to be a plastic product with metal elements? Do I want it to be a wooden product with metal, right? Or just wooden? And so I wanted to get the material right. Let's start there at the top. Then I want to tell them what the product is. So in this example, I said the product is wooden racking. And I said it's a wine glass hanger on the ceiling. Okay. Now I used some language here when I described it that was a little confusing to it, and you'll see how, because this is where I started. So I'm giving you a starting point. I'm going to show you how this worked in this case study. So then I can talk about features. You could do up to 5, 10 features, however many you want. You can pull those now from Data Dive, right? Based on the competition with real data, what people really, really want and like and don't like. You can use real data now to seed and make a better product with Midjourney. And then I like to talk about the color scheme a little bit. You don't have to, though. You can let the AI decide what color it wants to go. You can edit the color later with a good Photoshop person, right? But you can do the color. I put the color as natural wood colors, right, to start. Now you talk about the style of the image, the angle, the distance. If you want to get more specific, you can talk about it's shot from above, from a drone. It's in the type of camera you use, the quality of the image. I usually just skip straight to quality of image because I'm trying to get a close-up of a product, so I don't really need to say I'm 10 meters away at a 30-degree angle, right? I can just say, I just want a white background in 4K, and I want it to be ultra-realistic. So specify also whether it's realistic, cartoonish, animated, 3D, 4D, right? Like I didn't put that here. It usually defaults to 3D now, I'm finding, especially if you're describing a product, but you can do 3D, 2D. You can, so you want to put a few of these elements. The main thing for me is let me get some feedback. So the first thing I did is I got these. Now I was originally thinking of, and this is a call, we did this in office hours. So I actually started with this prompt in office hours on Monday because I was showing Midjourney in office hours. So at the end of office hours, you'll see that I start talking about AI with Aaron. And so I started with a basic prompt and I got this back, right? Now, what's interesting is like, this is not the rack I had imagined, right? It's circular. I was thinking one that's like a rack. The other thing is it gave me this one that's hanging on the wall. And I thought, I like that better than the hanging one. And I do like the circular shape. So by getting some ideas, instead of me trying to get overly descriptive and really, really get too sharp, I was able to get it started so I could start to get ideas, right? And that's where I like to start. I like to start somewhere in that area. And now what I want to do now is refine it. So what I did is I took the next prompt and I said, the product is wooden racking. It's a wine glass hanger on the wall. So now I'm much more specific. It's hanging on the wall. Now I said I like it circular, so I gave the description, the features that it's circular. The color is dark wood colors. I decided I didn't like this lighter color. I actually wanted it darker. And I said, you know what? This one had LED lighting. It looks like it has LED lighting. I like that element too. So does this one. So I like that element too. That's another feature that it thought of that I didn't think of that I actually like. So I said LED lighting, ultra realistic 4K white background. Again, I'm only a couple steps in here, guys. I'm maybe a minute invested into this. And now I was able to get these 4 options here. And I decided that the third one I really liked. So what you guys need to understand is that you've got the U1, V1, U2, right? You got U and V, and this is image 1, image 2, image 3, and image 4. And when the U is for upscale. it means that you're going to make it higher resolution and that you're happy with it. The V is that you want more variations similar to that one. So if I had said V3, I clicked on U3 to upscale it and I got this higher resolution image. But if I had said V3, it would have given me 4 more options that were very similar to this one, right? But I figured this one was so good, just as a case study, very raw, without additional refinement, without lightening it up, without the, you know, the white background didn't really come through as much as I want. But I guess when you're showing lighting, it knew it needed to darken it a little bit, which is cool. And so I said, this is good enough for me to test. This is unique. Let me go look at Amazon at wine racks and see what are the best sellers. So then we go to testing. I spent a little bit of money with PickFu, and you'll see I say, you know, this is the default that they have for the shoppers. And you'll see here that we had 50 people answer, these are the best-selling wine racks that hang on the wall on Amazon, selling 50 units, 30 units, and 25 units a day in the $30 to $50 range. And out of the 50 respondents, almost half chose ours. Absolutely demolished the competition. Now, what's interesting is that PickFu allows you to understand the demographic of who voted for you and against you. And so I dug into the data and I wanted to see, why is this one only 15 but 48? It's because older, more traditional people who like this style, they don't like lighting, they're not very exciting, they're not throwing a lot of parties, they're not entertaining, so they don't like it, right? Like it was a specific older demographic that just wanted a plain, you know, style. So the ones that were older that chose one of these first chose this one second. And if they chose this one second, it gets extra points because the points score here counts your first places and your second places and your third places. And it takes into account what place you got as far as order people would click. But in the younger demographics, it wasn't even close. We crushed all 3 of these options. And we were able to very easily get a product that we feel we can design, sell for a similar price. Now, this is where you would go. The next step would be sourcing. You would go find a wooden factory that can handle LED lights. It's just a wooden fixture that hangs on the wall. It doesn't need to be a wine company or a racking company. It could just be a furniture type wooden manufacturer. And you need to know how to talk to them. And this is where Steve comes in. So Steve, we're going to talk about ordering from the factory.
Okay.
Now we've got a few different types, and these prices are ballpark. They're probably not as accurate as they could be. So, but the whole point is that it's much cheaper in China usually to get your molds and tooling done, a fraction of the cost. But let's talk about what each of these types of customizations are and your experience with them and the time and the cost to do that. And maybe we can start with the actual wine rack that we just designed.
Yeah, well, the first thing is, you know, you nailed it on the head where, first of all, the superpower of showing up with a photo like that, you know, that superpower matched with China's ability to copy anything is like you're 80% there. So, and if you go to the right place, like you said, you know, wooden capability place, so probably a furniture or shelving type of factory would be the place you'd begin. The lighting effect is not particularly difficult or unique to worry about, and so it's, you show them that photo and they, you know, have access to kind of the raw materials, then you're mostly there. And in that context, you don't really need much of any of these types of things. Like all of that kind of custom product setup doesn't apply to the product you brought forward. It would apply to plastics. It would apply to, you know, rubber or metal that are, you know, cast and so forth. But wood is most often, you know, just plain sawn, or, you know, there's multiple ways to deal with wood, but most often there are not molds per se.
So there would be really not a lot of customization costs around the molds, maybe some initial tooling.
In fact, for a wooden product, I want to be clear.
Yeah.
There's very little mold work that you do with wood products,
yeah,
because they're literally just taking a raw piece of goods, they're shaping it, right, which are either going to be, waste cuts, or let's just say they could use a larger sheet of material and cut 4 or 5 of them into it, and then they round it. The round is certainly going to be waste. Maybe they can use some of that waste for the effects somewhere else. I didn't really study the design super well. But for wooden products, there's not a lot of setup costs, which is a great advantage.
Yeah.
You want to be really careful, as long as we're talking about wood. There is something called the Lacey Act that is highly important to make sure that you abide by. And
Lacey Act.
The Lacey Act is it's basically the Endangered Species Act, and it's to prevent using wood that is kind of clear cutting forests.
Yeah.
And so there are FSC sources of wood. There are lots of ways of dealing with that. The factories will certainly provide you Lacey Act compliance paperwork, but I really encourage any importer who is into the United States anyway, this applies to the United States, the importer of record is the one who's personally on the hook for that. So don't just take at face value what the factory tells you. Get the chain of custody on the wood, make sure it makes sense and is believable. My number one rule is I'm not going to jail. And so
I ain't never going back.
Yeah, that's one complication with wood, but you would have almost no setup costs for that, with the exception of they might have something related to the lighting to get a custom piece that is created for the lighting. But if it's neon, you can often get those in tubes and just bend it around, put it behind the wood, and you're done. But for other products, plastic injected molding is a huge one. Often the tooling to set up those molds is
let's give a couple examples of some pretty common products, right? So if you've got a backpack, very little customization cost. They can put a zipper anywhere. They can cut a new pattern for you. Very rarely are you going to have a lot of costs there. Usually the cost there will be upgrade costs. I want to make the zipper better. I want to add an extra zipper. I want to add a netting, right? Am I on track there with bags?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, that's true of most products that they already make, right?
Okay.
But if you showed up with a new design of a backpack, right? You did some Mid-Journey and it's a real cool, I don't know, turtle shell design that, you're putting a bunch of zippers on. Like they might have to charge you to kind of make a new pattern for that particular.
They'll charge you the upfront cost of getting that pattern done. But it's not one of these costs. It's not
a big cost. And by the way, even on these costs, again, the complexity of the part really matters here. Most often you can either negotiate a minimum order quantity purchase that will bake in the setup costs, or you pay the setup costs. You make sure you keep in some third location, like don't let them keep that thing there at all times. When it's not production, keep it at a third party location. So that way they're not running your product when it's not actually yours. But the objective is to try to minimize those costs as you can. When you have them, and to use the example of like that kid's plastic molded truck that we looked at earlier, there are a bunch of parts on that thing, right? The tires would be parts, and there would be a bunch. So there would be some setup costs that probably wouldn't bake into the first order unless you're ordering, a massive order.
I can tell you, since I do toys, and I was looking at some custom plastic toys that were more complicated, similar to that truck, it was as much as $20,000 for fully customized, because you're looking at the number of molds, the size of the molds, and the tooling all combined with tires, with this mold separate from this mold, and that's different. Like the bumper is different from the back, and the chassis is different from the front bumper, and the fender is different, right? So you've got all these different. It's not one piece, right? And exactly, so it ends up adding up.
That's the whole point, is that every individual piece adds that layer of tooling, mold, and costs, and that's fine as long as you know what you're getting into. But if you don't have the budget for it, don't get into something that complex. Go to a simple wood product,
Yeah. Now, let's give an example of something metal. So I've got a new type of racking that I want to do.
Sure.
That is made of metal. So I want to do that other wine rack, not the wooden one, but the metal one.
Yeah.
I've got my own design there. what does that cost me to get customized and done?
So again, when you're going to do any kind of casting, you want to look at so there's lots of different ways to do these things, right? So it's like the finish of the metal, the thickness, the alloy number. Like there's a bunch of specs that you want to consider and think about and be very precise about. One of the things
because the factory is often going to cut costs whenever possible. So they're going to give a thinner part here, a thinner part there. They're not going to finish this other part cheaper.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I only half blame the factory. The factory heard you say you need it for $5, and so they're like, all right, well, we're certainly not going to use the best metal. Forget stainless steel grade. Forget all these added costs. The guy said $5. We're going to deliver for $5.
Here's some thin aluminum. Good luck.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, you got a thing rusting on arrival, and it's a nightmare. So, getting that right, and again, knowing your base material specification. What's the thickness? What's the density if it applies? It might apply to things like rubber or plastics. What's the chemical composition if there's some sort of mix? You want to know all those things, and you can easily start with recommendations from the factory, and just start asking. What are the specs that you can test on, and that will help you start to arrive at that. But injected molding can be very simple and very cheap to very complex, and then you can extrude things. And if they have already making those extruded parts, then you're fine. That extruding is basically where they melt it down and run it through a shaping kind of process. Injection is where they have tooled a mold, they shoot plastic into that mold, and then they unlock the mold, and the plastic piece falls out, and they do it 1,000 more times. Casting is similar.
Casting is metal. Yeah. So with the casting, when I was at the electric bike factory, for example, they were talking about how they've invested, and it was over, I want to say it was close to $200,000 US for the whole bike. But what they were doing is they were taking the frame, and then I think it was because it was two pieces, so it was almost $100,000 per piece. But the entire frame was one solid piece of aluminum, versus having to mold together the each Y shape and all these different shapes in order to make the frame. And so that makes it much cheaper in the long run, but more of an upfront cost. So you have to balance the two and understand, I'm going to spend this much money. I need to sell a lot of units to make up the extra cost for this customization.
That's all true. One note is, for certain specific raw materials categories, there may be alternatives to China that are worth looking at. So, for example, metal, even plastic injection molding to some extent, India is now getting better at that. India is not super vigilant when it comes to exports in general, so you have to really find a factory that wants to export. If it's rubber, then like Thailand can do as well or better than China at times. And so depending on the raw materials, there may be alternatives. I would always start with China. I would get the costs, and then I would decide, as long as I have a few quotes, is this reasonable? Does this seem to be the market price? And then, unless I'm concerned about geopolitics or raw materials, I would probably start in China and then move if I need to later.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, thank you. Any other high level beyond warnings or tips on the sourcing and customization of a product side? You gave some great ones already.
Well, I always tell people, and I know I'm a broken record if you guys have heard it before, but read the book Poorly Made in China. That book tells you everything you need to know about buying and leveling the playing field with extraordinarily talented traders, right? These people have traded for centuries. They know how things are done, and they're really good at maximizing margin. And when I read that book, maybe in 2010, it was like 15 years of my life flashed before my eyes, right? It was like, holy crap, I've had every one of those tricks played on me. So without understanding, by the way, that the title may be a little misleading. You can make everything extraordinary anywhere, and you can make anything terrible everywhere, right? So China's neither positive or negative when it comes to quality. You, as the product expert, are responsible to get it made well.
That's a great way to put it.
That's the end of it. Because you are responsible for the specs. If you want it made cheap, they'll make it cheap. Don't blame them. That's your fault. That's a personal philosophy. So I'm not directing it as you guys as so much as myself.
No, I think that that's a great way a philosophy to always live by, which is when things go wrong, it's usually your fault. So take extreme ownership, take responsibility, and understand what you could have done better in the next time. Let's do a live example of a product, guys. Why don't you, in the comments, give me a product that, and I was supposed to do that before we talked customization. I guess I did that kind of out of order, and I know we're already getting over time on you. But I can post the results later in the group, and I'll share them with you, Steve. We'll run the poll later. But blind dog harness, wall clock for kitchen. Let's do something a little less commoditized, maybe. Pet carrier. It's interesting. Keep going. Nostalgic speakers. A mustache scissor. Vinyl display rack. You guys are all living in the 80s. Nostalgic speakers and vinyl display racks. All right, let's see here. LED floor lights are, you're just showing the lights. I don't love any of these, but maybe the wall clock.
Lamps, wall clock, anything.
All right. Want to do a makeup bag? Let's do a makeup bag. Is it for women or men? Let's see. Luxury watches box. Oh, I like that one. I think that's pretty commoditized. Would you recommended the wall clock, Steve, or what did you recommend?
I like lamps. So lamps is a category that is wide and has high design. So the downside is high design variability. The upside is high design variability. So for better or worse.
All right. So let's play with this really quickly. As you guys can see, these were the images that I posted yesterday. They were all done here. And I was doing wall tiles. So what kind of lamp are we doing? Plastic?
Yeah, you can make it out of plastic, sure.
What'd you have in mind? Let's hear from the mind of Steve. Like, what were you thinking in your mind? Like, just zero in a little bit for us.
Well, I might use some sort of granulated material, ceramic or porcelain or something like that. But I would not specify the type yet until I had a design, and then I would move the design towards the or the product specification or materials towards the design.
Okay.
But I want you to do it kind of your way. I'm just giving you some ideas.
All right. I did go with ceramic with metal accents.
Okay.
Let's see what it comes up with. I think sometimes with the metal accents, it tries really hard to put the metal accents in there, so it ends up doing something funky. So we might not want to put that later. So is it a desk lamp, or what kind of lamp would you describe it as?
Yeah, I think a lamp for let's say coffee tables or end tables, so a living room style.
All right, yeah, and
that's more design oriented.
Table lamp. Okay, and so we're going to now go into a little bit more of the features. So let's go with like 3 or 4 features. Does it have a big shade? Multiple shades, multiple bulbs? What do you think? One bulb?
Yeah, I think one bulb is sufficient.
All right.
But I would focus on the shade of being some sort of either architectural design or a famous designer potentially that I think you might find some I think there's gold in them their hills where it's not infringing, but it is inspired, by some of the great designers.
All right. I'm not going to give it too much direction beyond this. I just want to, let's start wide and then we can start to narrow in. So architectural shade, you can choose a designer now, or we can just see what it comes up with and then we'll just run a few of them. So architectural shade, 4K. I like to put ultra realistic. I don't really need to give it much more else. It's going to give us a lifestyle image, I imagine. We don't necessarily need it to, but at the very least, we can start with that. And let's spit out a few more of these. Give me a style that you want, a shade in the style of,
Say Frank Lloyd Wright.
yeah, classic. Now, do we want to describe it as modern, futuristic?
I think either or both.
Yeah,
Separate. Some people like modern, right? So that would be a whole style unto itself.
Yeah, the product is end table lamp. How about this? Let's get something, let's do something cool. Metal accents from the year 2200.
There you go. By the way, I used to sell Frank Lloyd Wright lamps, and we had it mispriced on our site back in the old days, Corner Hardware, and we were selling it for like, I don't know, $500, but it was supposed to be $25,000.
Oh my gosh.
So we had to cancel those orders because we got a bunch suddenly.
Luckily, you were in charge and it wasn't Amazon that shipped them without you.
Correct.
So we've got some initial design concepts here. Remember, it is putting that metal throughout, so I'm probably going to get rid of that metal prompt. So,
by the way, those Frank Lloyd Wrights look very Frank Lloyd Wrighty.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Who's the guy that does all the mazes? That that designer, or you kind of get lost in the illusion. What's his name? He has a whole.
I know
book.
who you're referring to by concept, but not by name.
Yeah. And the product is an end table lamp, architectural shade in.
MC Escher.
Yeah.
This out. Look at that. He's on the ball.
Escher. There we go.
MC Escher. Yeah.
We can do this one. And I'll do Frank Lloyd Wright again, but without, so from the year 2200, architectural shade and the style of. So I'm just spitting, and I think from here we can start to narrow, see what we like and don't like. Products made of ceramic, Frank Lloyd Wright, for ultra realistic. We got rid of the metal, year 2200. Okay. All right, let's see here. We got something interesting. Now, with something designer like this, these are great. These are great. So I'll let you guide us, Captain. So are we going to up or get more variations of any of these? Or just tell it to give us more? 4 more.
Well, it's, I guess that's a dealer's choice. I kind of like the lower right-hand one personally, but this is a very subjective.
Yeah, very subjective product to test,
stage,
right?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
You may as well hit more variations. Let's just see if.
Yeah, and we've got more coming right here already.
That other one.
Oh, look at this one. Here's the MC Escher.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Look at that lamp.
See, and this is the whole point, is if you mash up stuff, like you could use Coco Chanel or, any kind of famous designers. And even though they've never designed lamps, and even though you might not be able to link it directly, certainly you don't want to get into any kind of trademark or copyright issues, but, the inspiration or the genre is pretty spectacular to be able to pull that into, other mediums.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I'm actually going to up this one and I'm going to take a look at it. I want more variations of this one too. I like the style. I like the direction this one's going.
Yeah, for me, it's the shape, but also the colors. Like they're subtle, and but again, that
So that's the next direction we would go. We would start to specify colors, right? We would take this prompt, and if you love this, right, you love these, then you can say warm tones, earth tones, right?
Yeah.
So the product is an N lamp, architectural MC Escher, and then before 4K, I'll do the colors of the lamp are warm earth tones. The color of the shade is a cool. Yeah, I don't need this one. I don't even know what to call it. So which one? Oh, this was Escher. I want Frank Lloyd Wright. You guys are going to expect us to launch this product, aren't you? All right. So I think it's time we vote. We have some options here. Do you like any of these better than that original one, or do you like the original one better? I find a lot of times I go back to the original one.
Well, this is just like going to the eye doctor and they're like, do you like number 1 or number 2? Number 2 or number 3? Like,
Yeah.
they're all the same to me. I'm quite agnostic.
I like the rounded shape of this better.
Yeah, I prefer that. Looks like a robot.
Yeah, there you go. It's a droid. So we go here. I don't love any of these. I think Escher is not going to work for us. This is kind of cool. And I think we got one more, Frank Lloyd Wright. So what we would do is, here's the process that I usually do now, is I'll take these 3-4 designs that I came up with. I'll run a pick through on those.
Right.
And I want the concept to be somewhat different, not like the eye doctor test where they're all similar. So you're going to get, people are just kind of guessing at that point. They're nitpicking at one little thing they like better than the other. So you want 4 separate designs that are pretty clearly different, or 3 or 2. And then whatever the clear winner is, now I'll go run those against the best sellers on Amazon.
I agree.
Yeah. Huh. Almost like a Tiffany style lamp there.
Well, I think in that particular case, Tiffany is ripping off Frank Lloyd Wright then. Because any of that kind of checker color style, very much inspired by his architecture.
Okay.
See?
I need to get up on my
Tiffany colors.
Yeah. Great. Cool. So I think that and if any of these, does anyone have any suggestions? I'm not seeing the chat. I'm sorry, guys. Let me see. Try picking one and register the image. Then make Midjourney describe it to get more prompts. Yeah, we can do that. I like that process. The other thing is that you can take a really popular lamp. So we can always just run over here to Google, and we can go Frank Lloyd Wright most famous lamp. And there it is right there. Let me see. Very similar. And we can save it. Let me make sure this is going to paste in here. Okay. Yep. So this is an actual Frank Lloyd. Let me share again.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, you're off the share.
So this is an actual, oh, that wasn't it. I didn't save the right file. This is what we came up with. Give me 1 second. Where is this?
Let's say we're right on the money. Apparently we're infringing as well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to need to do the old snipping tool trick when it doesn't let you keep the image.
Sure, I understand. I mean, I wouldn't know what you're talking about, Brandon.
So now we've got an actual Frank Lloyd Wright, and we hit enter. So this is the way you guys reference an image. You have to send it to the bot or to yourself or wherever. You need to right click and you need to copy the location, copy the message link. Actually, no, you need to actually click in and copy the image address. So that's different. Copy the image address. Then you would go in and you would imagine, and you start with the link as a reference image. And we can go back over here. And you can get as descriptive as you want about changing this product. This is where you can start to really start to add a lot more features and descriptions. We're still kind of just doing the same thing that we were doing, but you're going to see that now we're going to get a lot more 4 images that are a lot more like this. So as a reference. Now for a lifestyle image, what I would do is I like to find someone doing the activity that I'm looking for on Google or wherever, and then reference that image, but then describe the scenery around that person doing that thing. So if I'm doing a golfing product, I can say we're on a golfing green and we're looking at this person who's hitting this shot at us, right? And you got a picture of a person hitting a shot. So then the reference images are already there and they know what you mean by that now. Yeah, this is great. So they're not that expensive.
Yeah, now I was noticing the question is, well, actually, this was probably back in the 2003 timeframe. So China's really brought down the prices, but there was one that we literally, it was 25,000 or 27,000, crazy price. And we mispriced it. Woo.
So here we got the original. And here we got ours. So I think this one's a little too close to the original. So let's maybe go with this one or this one. So we would go up 3. Let's go with this one. We can also ask for 4 more. So you guys get the concept. I think we're over time. I will run the PickFu and find and get the best selling Frank Lloyd like designer lamps on Amazon in the 75 to 200 price range, and that we think we can easily compete in. Remember, you got to compare apples to apples, and we'll see how we do. So let's just open it up for a few more quick questions to end. What do you use to add your own product to the lifestyle image? Natasha, I don't. I do that in Photoshop. So it's important that you get the image right for that. Yeah. The lifestyle images, I'm just trying to get the scenery set, get the right angle, get the right people, the right characters, the right feel for what my product is.
Yeah, just a little side note. They now have in Canva the ability to kind of mash up some of those photos with
amazing.
Yeah, AI driven.
So you can take your product and the photo and say, put them together, and it'll put it in there for you.
Essentially, yeah.
And Adobe's kind of doing that now too. You said you can kind of click and drag elements.
That's yeah, same exact principles. They're both working the same direction.
I've noticed, I don't know if you guys use an iPhone, but I've noticed lately that if you take a selfie or a picture of someone, if you hold on the person, you can drag them around.
Yeah, correct. So, that's going to happen in every format possible, including our own whatever product images. Stealth mode, Nika, I think is -S, but if you just go to Mid-Journey settings, you can see all the different settings. There are many.
Yeah. So Gladys, go ahead, fire away, and then Robin, and then we're going to wrap up from there. We've taken enough of Steve's precious, valuable time.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for the sharing. I find it very useful. So I'd just like to ask, for example, if you come up with a design with Mid-Journey, and when you send it to your manufacturer, do you mean that they can help you draw the 3D drawing, etc.?
I'll let you take that one on the design side, Steve.
Well, it depends on the product. So sometimes the answer is yes. If you sent, for example, the wine thing, the wine rack that Brandon made, and you had nothing else besides that photo, and you could say, make me a CAD type drawing so I can get that, so we can agree on dimensions and shapes and design. Many factories have the capability of creating that for you, including making 3D renders if necessary. But not all factories. And so, if that's a block or restriction, then you can, find somebody on Upwork to take that photo and make a CAD for you based on, you saying, well, I want these dimensions. And essentially, if you give outside and inside dimensions, thickness, and so, whatever those types of constraints are, and then a photo. Most designers can give you a great first version. So whether it's Upwork or the factory, easy to slay that dragon.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the challenges of this product that I'm finding is that you're running into a lot of a big parity of design, but also when you talk about end table lamps, a lot of them come in 2-packs. So maybe end table isn't the right way. Maybe it's coffee table or. So Robin.
Hey fellas, love this, by the way. Gladys asked one question that I was going to ask, so that was helpful. The other one was, you're using Midjourney at the moment just to ideate different physical ideas. If you just had a design-based product, like say if I wanted to make a hunting tent and I wanted to come up with 10 different ideas of the design to go on the tent, is it possible to give Midjourney just a reference tent thing and have it layer designs on top of that? Like, how would you just do a purely design-based easy item rather than coming up with new shapes and the like?
I got one way. I was in a very similar thing. So what I do is I prompt for patterns.
Okay.
And then that way I can get the fabric made in that pattern, because it doesn't need to be already on there necessarily. But that's something then your designer or someone can then layer into there for you, that pattern. But Midjourney isn't going to be the one to, like, I was struggling with that for a while. I probably spent a couple hours banging my head against the wall trying to get a specific pattern on a specific product. And then I realized I should probably just design patterns. And then I was able to test, my designer could easily do it. Within 10 minutes, he was spitting back the product with those patterns on it for me to test. So yeah, probably.
I was trying to kind of hide my idea that I don't really want to do hunting tents, but I guess if it's not a procedural pattern, say if it was like, I don't know, whatever, a countryside image or something, something that isn't just procedural for it to spit out, I guess, how would you approach that?
So are you asking about like for a lifestyle image then? To have your product in the lifestyle image?
No, I was thinking, say, if I wanted to come up with 4 different designs to test on PickFu that weren't just procedural ones, if they were like, whatever, a cartoon countryside or a real life countryside.
Oh, it can do those, right? Like I've done those. I did, I have a space toy and I did a map of the moon, right? Like it came up with something phenomenal for me. Took a little bit of iterating. I had to describe the angle, the resolution, how close we were, the size of the buildings, whether there were roads, right? Like on the moon, because I did a moon base type of thing, right? So like you've got to be specific and you'll get there. Like that's where cartoon, resolution, design, like that's where that'll come into play, I think. But if you play around with that, describing that scenery for you, and then add those elements around like animated, cartoon, or high resolution, ultra realistic, right? Like which one is it? But Steve, maybe you have some insights there as well.
Well, I'm not sure I still have the core thing. If you want to create a pattern like for fabric that Brandon talked about, you just use the tile prompt. So it's like, dash tile on Midjourney, and then you get patterns and fabrics of any structure size or in any kind of concept that you can imagine. If you're trying to get, let's just say, use the tent example, you could say you want it to be a tent shape with, this concept or this, pattern on the tent, or this design or this shape, or like almost any inspiration. It may take you several iterations to kind of narrow it down, but the longer, the more comprehensive you make the prompt, the more likely you are to get precise results. And to the extent that you can't get it from the AI initially, and by the way, this is moving real fast. In 6 months, it's probably a slam dunk. But today, you probably have to take, from Midjourney or similar AI image, text to image, and then move it into Photoshop or Canva for the next layer, where they can work with layers, and you can apply, a particular shape or maybe your existing shape of a product with a new design. But it's probably a mashup right now, Robin.
Got it. Thanks, guys. Great.
No problem. Steve, incredible in presentation, the resources you provided. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with AI and SOPs with SOP Box on the way out.
Yeah, no problem. So listen, the principle for me is not how do you use fun whiz bang tools to have a great, day. It's how do you get to be more productive, right? How do you do more with less? That's a founding first principle of every company we have. We want to do more with less. And so to create the opportunity for our teams to be more productive, where they feel better, you want to give them the how-tos, right? So those are SOPs. You document how to do something. Once they learn those SOPs, they don't need to read the SOP. So they tend to decay and they tend to fall out of favor. But we incorporate and embed the SOP into a checklist. So for example, in your finance team, once a month, maybe you're closing the books. Maybe that's 10 steps. It's 10 separate SOPs. Well, once they know it, they don't need the SOP detail, but they sure appreciate having that checklist. And so that's a process layer, right? So documentation, process is the second layer through checklists, but we operationalize all of that because we have, lots of people around the world, and we can then run reporting on those checklists. We can determine, kind of variance reports. Hey, the customer service rep normally takes a half hour to do this checklist. This person took 3 hours. What's happening? Or it normally takes 3 hours. They only took 2 minutes. What's happening? It allows management to dive in and get some oversight and operationalize the accountability. And it makes the lives of the team a million times better because they go, oh, great, today's the Tuesday checklist. Let's get to it. And they just kind of crunch down that checklist. And it could be scheduled, recurring, on whatever basis you wish. So that documentation process and then operationalization, when you just add AI and go, oh, what if I could, as today, right now, you can add AI assisted SOPs, how to add, a new item to Amazon FBA, how to create a shipment in ShipStation, how to add a new company to QuickBooks. Like every single one of those, the AI in 60-ish seconds will come back with the entire thing. That blank page is gone, it's behind you, and never to return again. And in the next, I don't know if it's 15 days or 30 days, we will have the checklist that can be made for you. Well, what's my month-end close in QuickBooks? What's the checklist? And it'll not only make the checklist, it will also make every embedded SOP. So it really creates management almost out of thin air, right? And this is one of the things as an entrepreneur, I've begun to build skills over these decades to be a better manager, but I'm inherently still a terrible manager. And I think most entrepreneurs are terrible managers because we see it in our head. So we don't take time to write things down. That's a sin. And then once we write it down, we don't keep it up to date. That's another sin. And then we are mad at the people when they don't do what's in our head. That's another sin. But, I've got a lot of sins going. And so we want to cure all of that and make it in the most simple, easy to execute kind of global operation. And basically our stock rate is $10 a user a month, right? If you can't make on the first day more than $10 worth of value, you're not using it right. And that's SOP Box. And so don't forget your code because the inner circle will have an advantage on that introduction price for the first month's free, the next 3 months, 50% off. Use step 1 at SOP Box. And you'll be good to go. So, and literally, I know they're sending out invites to the people in line already. We're just trying not to overwhelm the servers. And then once we see that the API is not being overwhelmed and so forth. By the way, you're using our API. You don't have to hook up your own APIs. We're paying for every one of those API calls. So there's no extra cost. You don't have to worry about anything. So it's a really big deal for us. And we think a systemically big deal for every company who wants to run like a finely tuned machine.
It's awesome. And I appreciate the extra discount for the members. There is a poll, guys. Step 1 is the discount, all one word, all capital. There is a poll, so please, I don't know if I have that. Yeah, I do have a QR. Let me let you guys scan this. Take out your phone and scan this really quickly. Here, please scan that. We need your feedback. And Steve, thank you so much. I actually started the poll. I'm starting it right now. Let's see here.
Love it.
And I found 3 other lamps that were selling that are kind of designer lamps that are in that 100 to 200 price point range.
Yeah.
Ours is not a white background, the rest are, so that
Sure.
that could change it a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know, similar. And we'll see how we do. Each of these are selling at least 15 a day. One of them was selling 30 a day.
There you go. Love it. I think this is the right approach, by the way. Like, we do the same kind of process. So I definitely a big fan.
Yeah, and I think that it starts with the idea, the ideation, the keyword research for us. We validate the product first. What was interesting is I used ChatGPT to ask it the question, you know, if I want to do leather goods from Mexico, then you can start with, as an example, what are the top 20 products, leather products Americans buy?
Yeah.
Give me 20 more. And so you got 40 potential products right there. And now you go run master keyword list, you run data dive, you validate the product, and all of a sudden now you can go into ChatGPT and make it better. Or into Midjourney and make it better.
Yeah, it's a good way to do it.
All right, guys. Thank you for taking the survey. Thank you for your time today. And thank you, Steve. We'll see everyone. And I'll post the results of the pick foo. I'll send it to you, Steve. I know you're probably curious as well.
I am.
Hey, we'll see if we win the first time around.
There you go. Thanks, everybody.